I'll now go to apologies and applications for leave of absence, please. And apologies are?
Councillor Jane McAllister.
Okay. Any leave of absence? Somebody move that the apology be accepted. Councillor Millstone, Councillor Wilton, all those in favour? Carried. Disclosures of interest. Does any councillor have any disclosure that they'd like to declare? No. Confirmations of the previous minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Noonan and the outstanding matter.
Outstanding matter is 6.10 up the records. Our operational at the moment and abiding by all the conditions. I have seen that they were operating right from the word go. They mostly got more than the 16 people that specific there. What are we doing to make sure our rules and regulations? Also, they were stating they would control the people in their area. They're not. They're wandering around still. Police have been out there and checked on it, but it's a public fair way, so they can't do anything about it.
Correct. So I can't speak to the control of movements of people, being the way it is, public fairway, as you said. As for the development consent conditions, where it currently stands from a legal point of view is that he is currently engaged a certifier from, I believe it's Bendigo, just to comply with the conditions of the DA, which relates to occupation, fire safety, suitability, habitability, and all those sorts of things. Once council gets the information from the certifier, we can then issue the relevant occupation certificates for it to become an operational premises. Yeah.
The point is that he agreed not to have any, not to be operating till all those conditions were made, and he has not adhered to that recommendation, which I find is pretty daunting when we set these regulations and we haven't enforced them.
So I've actually setting up a meeting with him and his, I guess for lack of a better, his representative, who he's engaged. We had previously at the last meeting, which was Roy Costa, Planning and Development. So I'm actually liaising with him through that agent to actually come to a resolution of how we're going to address it moving forward. So it's in progress at this point in time, Councillor.
Councillor
Yes, my favourite one, 10.4. Dogs.
What's going on with the dogs?
Dogs. Now, they're still roaming, those 3 dogs, and if I take any more photos, I'm going to wear the bloody camera out on my phone. It was like yesterday, they were in my front yard, the 2 that I'm photographed. Talking to the owners doesn't work. They're going to be locked up. The previous companion animal controller, whether a dog catcher or one of them to do it, spoke to the owners, one of the dogs, on diverse occasions, and the dog still roams free. So I think time to talk is long gone. They'll be locked up. If they won't bail them out and get them registered and kept under control, they'd be put down. As I mentioned in an email to you, Mr. General Manager, we came down a ton of bricks on a bloke who was doing everything right. Absolutely crucified him. And these people are just flaunting the laws. I believe they should be locked up. There are a couple of old people who live in the RSL flats are quite fearful of walking up the streets. These dogs, if you take a 3 or 4 dogs walking at them, gives them quite a start.
have the relevant officer speak to that, please.
So further to the email he sent to the General Manager, forwarded it to myself, and the 2 companion animals officers have been directed to increase their patrols in Dareton to twice a day for a period of not less than 30 to 45 minutes, morning and afternoon. and that will hopefully increase the ability of us to impound dogs that are roaming in and around the area of Darren.
Good.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or outstanding matters? Been moved and seconded. Yes,
If I
Councillor.
could, Madam Mayor, just
Councillor Wilson.
10.8 on the bowling green repairs at Wentworth. My understanding initially was that it would be attended to after the Night Owls Bowls competition in some time in April. I just wondered, Jeff, that's on the completion of the Baronga Riverfront's a little bit open-ended time-wise, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll take that question on notice and I'll confirm that, and if there's a chance to change that around, I'll provide that information.
Thank you.
Just one question. How do we go with the fire system at the sports complex? Has that been rectified as yet?
General Manager.
Oh, thanks very much. The matter's still under investigation, Councillor Evans. There's conflicting points of view in terms of whether the water is charging the system or it's not. So I think through the pump system it's not, but I've been informed, they're yet to be substantiated, that the system is actually working in terms of its charge and velocity and hydrants and hose reels and whatever else. So it conflicted with the position that Councillor Wheeldon holds, so I'm yet to substantiate which way that should be.
Would it be smart to
I would follow it up what an expert said.
get the fire brigade to have a look?
Yeah, sure.
Because there'll be a fire, then the people are going to get called.
Yep.
Thank you. Any further outstanding matters, councillors? If there's not, there's been a mover and a seconder. Those in favour? That's carried. 6.2, Little Bend Caravan Park update. There's a report there and a recommendation.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. Councillor Evans. Any comment? Councillor Hayward?
Yeah, it's mostly the lodgement of a development application to demolish the old amenities. I didn't think that we were going to demolish them at the moment.
Not at the moment, but we still got to put a DA into. That may not happen for another 6 months or so, but we just getting all of our paperwork in order so that when we do actually have to do it, it's not delayed.
Yeah.
By having to lodge a DA.
Yeah. Is there a plan for the new amenities block? What I'm asking too.
Not specific design for it, but there is on the plan. There's where we've nominated some sites where we'll put two smaller ones because it's a lot easier to manage than having that large amenities block. How we design that, we'll have to go back to the regulations about how many showers and toilets that you need in each one, depending on the capacity of the park.
Like my observation is that we need to tidy up from that amenities block back what we're doing with all the dirt. We've got retainer walls and stuff like that. I think we need to be concentrating on getting that finished before we start looking at demolishing.
The amenities block will be one of the last things that gets done, but I'd rather have the DA approved now than have to delay the project by 2 or 3 months.
Oh, yeah, I'm quite, yeah. No, that's all.
It's been moved and seconded. Councillor McKinnon, we can't see you. You're just a dot on the screen, so would you like to reply so we can hear you when we go? So those in favour?
Yeah, we're all here.
Thank you. That's passed. Thank you. 7, the Mayor and Councillor reports. A list of meetings there that have been reported. A huge amount of them on water. You know, there's a problem. And I'd like shortly to have a Mayoral Minute where we put forward on the polling to be held in September. At the moment, we've been notified the polling booths will be in Wentworth, Dearden and Midway, and I believe it's the thought of the councillors that we need one in Poon Carey as well for the September 21 election. So would somebody like to move a motion along those lines?
We need to deal with this one first.
Yeah, so get that as a mayoral minute. You don't need a seconder. You can just, just say the way it is.
All right. So we'll go for the report. We'll move in the seconder on that, please. Councillor Elstone, Councillor Noonan, those in favour. It's carried.
I've got to ask, sorry, it's either to you or to the General Manager, because in both reports, what was the outcome of the Western Weirs briefing? Did you offer them the Pooncarie Weir back?
It is an ongoing, continuous debate.
Given that in the Western Division's conference in Burke in 2019, the then Minister clearly said all weirs will go back to the control of the state.
If I may, through you, Madam Mayor, position 3 points to note with any correspondence that goes out of the office of the General Manager representing council is that 1, we want a higher weir, 2, we want better fish passage, and 3, we don't want to own it. And we'll be representing that position at a gathering with the Western Weirs project team tomorrow in Pooncarie at 4 o'clock.
Just remind everybody what the Minister said in Burke. Yeah, I remember it. I only fell off my bloody chair when he said it.
At council, that very same information has been given to every department we can possibly give it to, re the Pooncarie Weir.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll vote those in favour of the. Okay, now the mayoral minute, I'd like to put that forward and see again if the Wentworth Shire Council put forward a minute that we require a polling booth in Pooncarie for the September 21 elections.
Can you amend the mayoral minute? Subject to cost, because that's going to cost 10 grand. But to say no, Charlie. Subject to a reasonable cost.
And I'd like, Madam Mayor, I believe that postal voting is by far the most satisfactory way to do it. And even people voting in Pooncarie, the state law says if you're more than, I think it's 5 kilometres something, that 30, you don't have to vote.
You do have to vote, but you have the opportunity through postal vote.
Yeah.
And I think the way to go is definitely postal voting, and we should, if you're contacting the Electoral Commission, you should include that.
The mayoral minute shall read that, subject to costing, we, as a council position, we hold that we prefer a polling booth in Pooncarie. That's the mayoral minute, for which we'll represent that through to the Electoral Commission. The point of view in relation to postal voting is that we'll follow up on previous correspondence to the Office of Local Government, represent the point of view that we see that postal voting throughout our entire local government area is the preferred option.
And it should include that Mildura Rural Shire does it that way.
No disrespect, Councillor Wilden, but that river between us, while we don't like to acknowledge it in terms of complexities and alternative arrangements, I think there is slightly different arrangements in Victoria.
Okay, so we'll vote on the minute. Those in favour, thank you, it's carried. We're on to 9.1, the General Manager's report, and there's a summary and a recommendation.
Move the recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Noon, Councillor Elstone, Councillor Hayward, Councillor Evans.
Oh, sorry, it's all right.
It's okay. I'll look further afield. Question, Councillor Noon.
The webinar on floodplain harvesting, what did that sort of resolve or discuss or decide or recommend?
Like your previous question, Councillor Noonan, it didn't resolve anything other than lack of decision making and further works to be undertaken.
That'll be from the government's perspective, no doubt.
Any further questions of the General Manager? No further questions. Those in favour? Councillor McKinnon. Got it. That's get carried. 9.2, attendance and motions at the Murray-Darling Association 77th National Conference and Annual General Meeting. There is a recommendation there.
I'll move the recommendation, Madam Mayor, with a
Councillor Elstone.
with a suggestion that
Councillor Hayward.
Obviously, Councillor McAllister will attend because she's on the board of the DA. Councillor Hayward and myself are also our council reps, but given it's in Wentworth, we probably could just throw it open to one and all, I would imagine.
Those who wish to attend, please notify.
Is there a cost involved?
Yes, $699.
Yeah.
Well, when I think we're free.
We're free, are we?
After the reading of it.
The
three
three
members
members are, but additional councillors will be at the cost.
Three members ago can fully inform us and we'll get the minutes. Yep. We're going to call upon.
Right.
Because Councillor
McAllister is.
McAllister
Yes.
is, yeah, and I'm on the executive, so I'll be there anyway.
That's right.
Yeah.
The MDA.
Of the MDA.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the other.
No, no,
Sorry,
no,
I'm
no,
way
no,
off.
no, no,
Way
no,
off.
no,
I'm way off, that's all right.
MDA conference is
Sorry,
to be held within the
West,
Wentworth Civic Centre.
16th and
too
19th.
too much happening.
Councillor Hayward.
To you, Madam Mayor. I've seen this happen a lot with conferences to go away. In our local area, I believe we need councillors to show the strengths at these sort of programs. One I went to in Wagga had one councillor from Wagga in it, and it was everybody noted the fact that there was nobody there and it was in their own third. I would like to see more. I know there's a bit of a cost there, but there's no accommodation, and it supports the ongoing push for this water in our area.
Any other thoughts, councillors?
It's ratepayers' money we're spending. And if you look at the agenda, there's going to be a day out having a little swanning around Amenity. I don't want to swan around Amenity, been that many, been there enough. And a gala dinner, so there's a lot of money to pay for a bus trip and a dinner, basically. It's a 2 or 3 hour meeting.
The current list of people to go are the Mayor, the General Manager, Councillor Elstone, Councillor Hayward and Councillor McAllister. Out of those that are associated with
I
it.
think that's correct.
There's no representation. That's half the council.
So everybody, apart from Councillor Hayward, they're all shaking, nodding. So we agree that they be the people that.
Yep. I'd like to be there, but I won't be, but I'm not going to draw on the funds for that. No.
Thank you. Okay, so you move that, Councillor Wilton?
Yeah.
Second. Councillor Noonan. Those in favour? Okay, that's carried. Thank you, councillors. 9.3, the Slattery and Johnson report. There's a recommendation there. A mover, please, a seconder. Councillor McKinnon, can you hear me?
Yeah,
You'll move that, won't you?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Seconder, please. No, I'm not going to go with you.
Oh, see.
Councillor Noonan. Okay, so it's open for someone to talk to it if they wish to. No one? Okay.
Can I just make a comment?
You
I haven't had a hard enough study, but I know from when we met them out here that day, Mary Ann Slattery and Bill Johnson, that there was a discussion around the 94-95 cap, which is an issue I think that we all should be pushing pretty strongly, because it was 500 gigalitres was supposed to be the take in the northern basin in New South Wales. Now they're currently trying to licence 1,400 gigalitres, and obviously the difference is 900, and if you had that available, it would make a hell of a difference to what's happening in the system. So I think we need to be on the bandwagon. I'll do a bit more research and make sure I've got the facts right, but I think it's critical to the argument that that was the original plan, that worked, and now we're in a situation where, it's nearly 3 times the take. So
I think it should be banned outright. Banned outright. It's ruined the rivers. The cutting station. Never been allowed to happen. I know JBL sanctioned the one because of the rainfalls in Queensland and along Queensland.
And the problem is we're not talking about Queensland in this debate. We're only talking about
Still shouldn't be there.
New
I'm
South.
farm storage in Spice because I had a problem with the weather just cutting off the river.
Yeah, but that's what their licence is, to run it into the on-farm storage.
Yeah.
Councillor Hayward.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that this report from Slater and Johnson is great. It's put in perspective how many dams are there and how they're being built. Tim and I, when we flew this a couple of years ago, we were trying to ascertain the size of the dams and that, but they've gone right into it, and it's really showing up where the problem is, that all these dams from 400 in 88 to 1395 in 2019-20. So this is great information that we can use now.
Yeah, look, Councillor, I think you're correct, because what it does tell you that there's 1,833 that are over 75 by 75 metres, so it doesn't account for the ones that are under that size.
Yeah.
Yes.
It also says that it takes 42,700 hectares of land, so you're right.
A lot of area.
And we've increased by 142% since that time. So, I mean, those figures are alarming. It's alarming, I think, for the size of the amount of water that's held off river. So
up to now it was hearsay. Now we've got some figures that show that it's definitely true, and that's great.
Councillor Evans.
Just saying that we're down here battling for the Menindee Lakes and working to restore at least some partially restore the lakes and the lower end of the Darling, when they're holding more than the Menindee Lakes can hold up there on farm. Yep. So the whole thing's very skewed.
Exactly.
Very
skewed.
skewed.
Okay, I think we've passed our sentiment on that, which is probably good and needs to come out. So recommendation's been moved and seconded. Those in favour? It's carried. 9.4, request to amend the date of the April Ordinary Council meeting.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeldon. Councillor Evans. Any comments? I think it's a necessity. So those in favour? And it's carried. 9.5, the monthly finance report. A recommendation there. Those who, somebody move it please. Councillor McKinnon?
Yep.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Hayward had his hand up first. Are there any comments or questions? No comments or questions. Those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. It's carried. 9.6, the monthly investment report. A mover, please, the seconder. Councillor Evans.
Yep.
Councillor Hayward. Any comment on the investment report? Probably the only comment I'd like to make is it's very, very sad to have savings and get so very, very little for them. I won't go any further than that. So those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. It's carried. 9.7, A34, East Wentworth Sewerage Works and Easement Acquisition. The recommendation there, councillors?
I'll move that, Madam Mayor. 1 to 8.
1 to 8. Seconder, Councillor Noonan. Any comment, please?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Noonan.
Looking at the location of that proposed acquisition site, it's right under would that be in the shadow of the rifle range? The rifle range here beside you see the outline of it beside the showground.
Yes.
Is that what they call a shadow? Because the previous council, a lot of stuff's been kiboshed up there because there's a shadow. So there's a shadow over the rifle range. Is that?
Relevant officer, answer that question, please.
I was told it was
Is it the fucking
closed down
range?
the rifle range.
No.
They had what they call a shadow, which virtually went to the Picare Road right across. There's a fairly sort of went like that. I don't know if that's going to have any impact on this. If someone shoots over the top and a straight little thing and something's head right away.
Well, it's already existing. So.
Hey? It's already
The works, so.
I don't know, it's, I just look at aerial photos, it's a bit of a different perspective, but it must be safe there.
My understanding is that any work that happens within there, as it is with the where the sewage ponds are, that's done. There's a system in place with regards to when the rifle range is being used, and no access to those particular areas at that time.
This is because the aerial photo gives a far different perspective when you look over the guy. Yeah, it's just there, but when you see it lined up with something, that's okay. I'm happy. No one will get shot.
Councillor says it's taken 3 years and we're still reapplying. So there's been a move and a second. Those in favour? That's carried. Thank you.
Will that require a division, Madam Mayor?
No.
9.8 is the cancellation of the Wentworth District Rowing Club Easter Regatta. Somebody move that.
I'll move that.
Councillor Evans. Seconder, please. Councillor Haywood. Any comment? No comment?
Well, yeah, it's just disappointing that COVID stopped that from happening. It's way of the times, but yeah, it's just a bit disappointing.
Councillor? Okay, those in favour? That's carried. 9.9, the new process for lodging development applications through the planning portal. There's a recommendation. Councillor McKinnon will move this one.
Yep, waiting to move it.
Thank you. Seconder, please, councillors. Councillor Noonan. Now, is there perhaps, does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask with this? Because other than that, I'll go to the General Manager and just get him to explain some of the problems.
How is the average Joe Blow going to access this portal?
I'm going to defer to Matthew in relation to that. If Matthew, you can expand a little bit on the report, and the question from Councillor Elstone is that how does Mr. and Mrs. Smith in the street who wants to lodge an application for an addition or a carport or a shed or whatever else, how do they comply with this, basically?
Certainly. So the long and the short of it is, councillors, that any person who wants to lodge a DA after 1 July this year need to create their own login account through the New South Wales Planning Portal to be able to make submissions and applications through the planning portal to us. And that's what it is. So if you have an email account and an internet address at home, you basically go to the planning portal website, set up your own login and password. Once that's set up, you can then go in and everything has to be lodged electronically after the fact.
So to further the question from Councillor Elstone with respect to our ageing demographic of Wentworth, so if a shed was to go up adjacent to a parcel of land, and the scenario would be, so the application has to be lodged electronically through the portal. Further to that, in the neighbour notification that we do, to object to that, we need to go into the portal.
We would still send out our neighbour notification, so not everything is electronic through the portal. So through the portal, it's just the application process, and that allows the New South Wales government to track and pull all this data stats out month by month, year by year. As far as neighbour notification and all the back-end work that we do in assessments, we would still manually email or post out to our surrounding neighbours and receive those submissions that way, and then we can upload those to the portal ourselves.
They still have to end up on the portal. Something else they suggested that we'll resource that ourselves internally.
We will, and that's the new system that we're looking at should be able to facilitate that.
Councillor Wild and then Councillor Haywood.
Madam, I'm against anything that makes it more complicated to develop in the Wentworth Shire, and being one of the ones that are not particularly computer literate, I think that it would, for me to do it, I would have to go and hire someone to put in an application and then hire someone to understand the computer stupidity to understand how it's done. I think it is most probably good for a computer geek or someone that hasn't really got plenty of time to fool about. But if you want to do something and you want to put in a development application, you don't want to make it as hard as it's bloody possible to do it in the Wentworth Shire.
Thank you, Councillor.
So,
Yes, Councillor Hayward.
are we going to make something available that somebody wants to put in an application, can they come to the Shire office and have it put through to the portal? If they've got it written down, are we going to help them put it in the portal?
Take that question on notice and see about resourcing and opportunities to do so.
Councillor Evans.
I think following up on Councillor Hayward's suggestion there, it seems to me to play to businesses that will provide that service. So even in my own situation, I'm pretty familiar, but to go in and actually put answers on a page on the computer is a totally different scenario to going in and managing that process with someone in the office. So there needs to be some assistance. Otherwise, as Councillor Wheeldon suggested, it's going to cost someone. They're going to have to pay for that time. So we probably need to work on that process.
Councillor Elstone.
I think it's not going to cost, or we're going to see a lot of illegal.
Yeah,
It'll
be that
we
double-edged
won't
sword.
see the DAs, and the other thing that, I guess we're damned if we're doing, we've got no option, but this is not a council implemented thing, it's state government law, which is another thing they throw at us in the cost shifting exercise, so they don't have to pay, everyone out here does.
I guess if, based on the questions around the table this morning, there'll be probably a much greater need for private certifiers to assist or consultancies to assist in the lodgement. That's not what you want to hear, but the reality of this mandated obligation put on us by the state government is that it is a system, and somehow the resources have got to be assigned to it or aligned to make it happen. And 1 July is when it's got to happen. So,
Yes. Similar questions were asked yesterday, councillors, and you're right. I'm sort of the opinion that perhaps there'll be little sheds going up all over the place that we won't know about. So that's unfortunate because it probably makes honest people dishonest. There's been a movement in a seconder. Those in favour? Carry. Line 10, delegated authority approval in February. There's a recommendation. Move it, please.
Your comments in the summary, this brings the year to date total to 9 developments.
Councillor?
In that summary, we've got the estimated value of the term and developments was 1.2 for February. Oh, you're saying year to date, we're talking the calendar year, isn't it?
That's correct.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. I'm thinking the other 6 months.
Okay. No further comments. Those in favour of the recommendation? And it's carried. Thank you.
Division.
The division. Those in favour again, please. That's everybody. Thank you. Number 11, projects and works update. Again, a recommendation. Move to the recommendation, please. Councillor McKinnon, Councillor Noonan. Thank you. Any questions? Or
Comment.
yes, Councillor Noonan.
Yeah, it does.
Councillor Evans.
It's just...
sorry, Councillor Hayward.
Yeah. The out at the Gorge Jordan Oval, the netball courts, I did state last time about the Californian punchweed. I went out to see some practice last Thursday there. It was great, the amount of people there, but there was balls of cannonballs stuck under vehicles right near the netball courts, and it needed to be cleaned up. It's a bit of a disgrace, I think, that it wasn't sort of, and there was cannonballs inside the fence, or Californian punchery.
Would you like to take that into notice as a motion? Any questions? The next item?
Yeah.
As an item
we can.
to be addressed? Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Those in favour of the recommendation? Carried. Thank you. Now we'll go to 10 notices of motion and questions of notice. I'll go to you, Councillor Haywood.
Yeah, I just, at the George Court Oval around the netball courts, the Californian punchweed that's there, I just think it needs to be cleaned up. We're going into a lot of people there, and it's a bit of a disgrace to see balls of prickles stuck under vehicles and that, and the kids are walking in these burrs, and then it's going out onto the court. I'd just like to see something done there.
Thank you very much. Any other notices of motion? Councillor Weldon.
Yes, it annoys me when I see that the youth comes from Baronga with towing a portable toilet. Hasn't a director heard of those things they have in most caravans? It just annoys me that things that are just so basic aren't being done out at the Wentworth waste disposal area.
Can somebody elaborate on Councillor Weldon's concern?
As part of a project currently being undertaken, Councillor Weldon, we've secured those buildings from Carnegie Station, for which they'll be retrofitted with toilets and office facilities, which one will be provided to Wentworth, Dead and Pomona landfill or transfer sites. So we're just in the process of having procured the services of someone to retrofit those buildings, and we'll certainly try to have a permanent structure at those sites before the end of the financial year.
Okay.
I asked as a customer request to have a traffic monitor on the Pooncarry Road. It's been told to me that there hasn't been one on there when there's a virus thing and people coming through from South Australia. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I certainly would question whether there shouldn't be a permanent traffic counter on that road.
On the Pooncarry Road?
No, the Renmark Road.
So, Renmark Road.
I mean, I know I was devilish. I talked to a council employee, and the council employee said it's council policy to shift it around this traffic counter. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I have really serious problems if they're not monitoring the Renmark Road all the time, because we need grants for that and we need facts and figures. And the only way you get them is with a traffic counter.
Councillor Haywood, thank you. That's been noted.
The traffic counters, I think you would need two. You'd need one at Wentworth, and you would need one out towards Warrenanga, where a lot of people go to Fort Courage and down to Rufus River. We want to know what's going around the lake. So the two would be great if it's possible.
We're just trying to get one, Steve.
Have you got anything further, Councillor Haywood? Councillor Noonan?
Yeah, I've got one here that concerns me a bit. We give I believe council gives discounts to certain companies who use the wrong waste. Is that right? What are the companies? How much are they given, and how many tonnes of discounted stuff have gone in? I want to know all that, and who authorised it, because I didn't bloody vote for it, and I wouldn't have voted for it, because we're way under what they're charging Mildura. We should be charging full tote odds.
All right.
Everybody.
I'm going to take your question on notice with one statement to say that the dispensational or concessional rates started under the previous council, and it's something that's continued on.
This is not from him. I'm looking for a notice of motion up there.
Having said that, there's another company that's also in the mix of dispensation rates.
I'm going to put a notice of motion up next meeting that there be no discounts to anybody.
We'll bring that to.
I want to know if I go a report at the next meeting of how many tonnes discounted material went in and what it's cost the council, those discounted tonnes. We're talking 40, 50,000 bucks. I'd like to know exactly how much we've forgiven in revenue. I've got to give a discount.
Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Noonan? Councillor McKinnon, do you have anything you want to notice of motion? No? We'll go this way. Councillor Evans. Councillor Elstone.
Only really a comment, Madam Mayor and councillors, on the after discussion this morning in the briefing, and Jeff just dropped these plans here on the 900 or so lots that are either completed or in the pipeline to go. Is I have this concern about the infrastructure program up here, and I just think we need to prioritise and get well on top of it so we don't get caught out when everything comes in.
Anything further? The only report I have is that goes back to counters. Probably 4 months ago, I asked for a counter to be done on the back road. It was there, both on both ends. We've never received a report. So I don't know whether it was too shocking that nobody wanted to see it, but I counted 30 cars this morning. I count the cars every time when I come over here. Councillor Wilson.
I'm sorry, I know I'm coming back for the second. Is there a shortage of traffic counters, Jeff?
Sorry?
Have we got too few traffic counters?
We have a number of traffic counters. There's a couple that are away for repair, and
do we need to buy some more? Because that grants hinge on the usage, and we've got to have accurate figures.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yep.
Thank you.
So we need a couple extra or something.
Yeah,
We've got to rely on you saying, but we need accurate figures, and we need to get grants for a lot of these roads.
I understand we have several, Councillor General Manager.
I believe we've got six
We have
active ones and a couple needing calibration or further repairs.
Yeah, that's right. And we have a series of them, and as I said before, they are constantly moved around. Primarily, they dual function, obviously, for application for grants. The other reason they're out there is for provide information with traffic loads for the reseal program and the like. So, but yeah, I agree. There was probably an issue at the moment with a few that are down and the maintenance requirements on those, and the proposed purchase of a few more to follow up and further support for applications for updated information for grants. So I'll follow up on that.
Perhaps the interest, perhaps a small report on that, and a report to us on what we have, what we don't have, what we need, and perhaps the ongoing cost of that. The more counters we have also, we have to achieve, someone's got to collate the data, so we need staff behind that too. So,
Councillors, anybody else had second thoughts? Anything else? Nothing else. We'll go on to 11 and ask Councillor Noonan to take us into confidential business.
I will move that the council adjourns into closed session. Recording of the meeting be suspended and members of the press and public be excluded from the closed session, and access to the correspondence and reports relating to items considered in the course of the closed session be withheld unless declassified by secretary.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We'll go to 12.1 then.
Need a second.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. We'll go to 12.1, construction of houseboat, rowing boat, mooring area, and it has a figure there. So, councillors, the diagrams and so on and so forth. So if somebody would like to move it. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that the decision is made in closed council be confirmed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, councillors. As a recording of our deliberations during the closed session of council, I can confirm that item 12.1, construction of the houseboat and rowing boat mooring area of Wentworth Riverfront, that council accepts the tender from the Ford Wilson Group Contracting Limited to the specified works in the amount of $545,545, and the Mayor and the General Manager be authorised to endorse that contract. Attached to the seal. In relation to 12.2, the plant replacement approval of tenders for the replacement of the council's road sweeper, that council accepts a tender from Rosmec for the supply of a Hino R6 FG 1628 regenerative air sweeper for the sum of $373,316.90, and we accept the trade price of $44,000 for the old Schwartz road sweeper. In relation to 12.3, Wentworth Sporting Complex Cool Room, approval of tenders. The council accepted the tender from Mr Stephen Begg for the sum of $2,530. In relation to 12.4, Wentworth Aerodrome Upgrade Stage 2 bitumen asphalt and line marking works, that council accepts the tender from Primal Servicing to carry out the supply, delivery and placement of bitumen asphalt and line marking in the sum of $782,333.53. And once again, that the council authorises the Mayor and General Manager to sign and attach the seal to that contract. That was the business in closed session of council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Ross. I'll close the meeting. Thank you, councillors, both here and electronically. Councillor McKinnon, for your attendance and attention. Also to the staff that are here, and I'll close the meeting so we can go to our tour of the southern area of the Shire. Meeting closed.
Okay. Catch you.
See you done.
Oh, sure.
So that